Hey Jennifer, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty good, as far as I know.
Good.
Hey Branson, how you doing?
Doing fine, sir. How about yourself?
All right, you back to life?
Yes, sir.
All right, good to hear. How about your wife?
She's doing better. We went out yesterday. She's doing a lot better. Thank you for asking, sir.
Yeah, well, I hate that you all got that. It's just terrible. I guess you have more immunity now, though. I guess that's the way to look at it. I don't know.
Yeah, I dropped my sons off at high school today, and I was shaking my head like, here we go again.
Yeah, cluster. Where do they go to school?
Aiden Grifton.
Okay. Yeah, it's a crazy time, is all I can say.
Yep.
I think we should tell people that the vaccination is for polio, and maybe that would make it easier.
No, I think you should put up a flight of milk crates and let them climb up the top, and they can walk down without falling, and you don't have to wear a mask. Have you seen that yet? The
No,
milk.
is that on YouTube?
Yeah, just look up crate challenge.
Okay, I will.
And if they can do that, then they don't have to wear a mask. And I'm satisfied by that. If you can do that, that is so hilarious.
Oh, I gotta look that up. Thank you. I'll check that out. Well, I try to avoid anything political in this class because we have everyone from all different
Yeah.
ways. So, but nonetheless, I do get discouraged when, real life has to take a back seat because of really things I don't understand. So what can I say?
I just look at it as life in America.
Yeah. It reminds you ever watch Monty Python?
Yes.
And the guy goes through the streets with his crate and goes, "Bring out your dad, bring out your dad." All right, we gotta stop, man. All right, there's Grant. Hey, Grant.
Hey Dennis, how are you?
Good. All right. I
Oh,
think
sorry
we're
for
at 1 o'clock. So good evening, everyone. I don't know. It's 1 o'clock for me, Jane. I don't know. Where are you? Oh, okay. Let's see. What do we got here? Chat. Okay. All right. I'm trying to keep all this straight. Welcome, everybody. We're going to do a couple things today. Uh, I don't know if you all have ever heard the term EQ before. You certainly have heard of IQ, intelligence quotient. And EQ is something called emotional quotient or emotional intelligence. So we're going to go over how that applies to entrepreneurs. And I think you'll feel like it's something that makes a lot of sense to you. And the correlation between people with high EQ and success in business is 4 times more important than IQ, which is pretty interesting. But before we do that, we had a couple weeks ago, maybe a little longer, I was trying to do a streaming of a guy named Tom Kelly from IDEO, and I was unable to figure out technically how to do that. So I do have a little brief intro, 5 minutes long, that I want to share with everybody of Tom Kelly from IDEO. I have worked with IDEO in the past. They are a design firm that, among other things, invented the computer mouse and lots of other amazing things. They've done a lot in cars, like with the software in cars and a whole bunch of other things. But this little 5-minute talk is about innovation and how to look at it maybe a little bit differently than we're always trained to. So I'm going to start off with that, and then we're going to go into the emotional intelligence. So let's start off with, okay, hopefully this will work. Okay. Okay, so this is Tom Kelly of IDEO, IDEO.com if you want to look them up.
Make big change via small experiments. Don't tell the boss you got the best idea ever. Just use that phrase, I propose the following experiment. You see, as soon as you've done that, you've surrounded yourself with career protection, right? Your experiment can crash and burn. It was an experiment. You are not a failure in that mode. You're an experimenter, right? And by the way, this works all the way up to the CEO level. It works best, I think, when you're pitching your boss, but it works at the CEO level as well, as I'll illustrate in a moment. When I was doing my research for my books, I stumbled across this guy, Dean Keith Simonton. And this guy's written like 20 books. This guy is an expert on creative geniuses. And one of the things Dean Keith Simonton said is, hey, these so-called creative geniuses, they don't necessarily have a higher success rate than the rest of us. They try more stuff. So you as an individual, you as a company, you want to be the kind of people that try more stuff. Not everything is going to succeed, but you could be like the creative geniuses when they are done at the end of the year or at the end of the day or at the end of their careers. They don't talk about the failures. You know, Thomas Edison, considered the most prolific inventor in the history of the United States, we talk about he invented the light bulb and the chronograph and the tattoo pen, by the way, still in modern usage. He had 10,000 experiments before he got to that first electric light bulb, right? No one talks about that. You don't have to talk about the failures. Just try a lot of stuff quickly and cheaply. Try a lot of stuff and then tell your friends, tell your boss about your successes, right? And so in the Experimenter Hall of Fame, there's this guy, Jim Dyson, founder of this company. Dyson, best known for cyclonic vacuum cleaners and air purifiers and things like that. He had the heart of an experimenter. He knew that he was not failing randomly. He was failing forward. He was learning from each experiment. And this is an important part in your career and in your company. You've got to associate experimentation with learning. In fact, in many cases, we believe that experimenting is the only way that you can learn. When you come up with something new to the world, no one knows if people want it. And so you have to find a way to put it in front of people, right? His experimentation was not failure. His experimentation was his journey to success. So if you want to make change, start with small experiments. And just to illustrate that this works at the CEO level as well, here's an example from one of my favorite CEOs ever. This is Jim Hackett, CEO of Steelcase, family-owned company for 100 years. Jim actually took the company public. The family still holding a majority share, but they wanted to fund their philanthropy, and so they wanted to cash out part of their ownership. There may be family-owned businesses in the room who have similar situations. I think the first non-family member CEO in the company. Anyhow, a great leader. And when he takes over as CEO a long time ago now, he had a big change he wanted to make. And your change won't necessarily be Jim's change, but it might still apply to your world. Steelcase is the biggest maker of office furniture in the world. And so he called his 7 direct reports in one day, right after he became CEO, and he said, hey guys, I think it was all guys back then, it is not anymore, but this is a long time ago. He says, hey guys, he says, I've got something I want to talk to you about. It was about changing their offices. And people are really defensive when you want to change their offices in any way, right? And so Jim says to me, Tom, at that point, I had two options. Option number one is the big change option. He says, I could have told my direct reports, look, we're going to blow up your old offices. You're going to be in this office environment that we created. By the way, they weren't using their own designs. They were, they used these open air offices, but the executives at Steelcase back then had these closed offices with acoustic privacy, not really using their own products, right? And he thought that was kind of weird. And so he said, option number one, big change. Blow up your office. You're going to live in the open air like all of our customers do. And this is an important part of the process when you're doing your small experiments too. He says, and my promise to you, he says, my promise to you is that we will address these issues, right? That we will fix things that are bothering you. The Steelcase leadership team has been in that open air leadership community for the last 20 years, right? He got his big change, and they did get rid of those old offices. He got his big change, but he did not push a big, scary change. He proposed a small experiment. So, of course, you have changes you want to make in your team, in your company, maybe in your life. If it's possible to do this, some challenges have to be done in big gulps. But if it's possible to do this, break it down into the little experiment, and then people will join you. People will go along. So if you've got big change, find a way to break it down into small experiments.
Okay, we'll just take a second there. And certainly open to any observations or comments that folks have. But what I wanted to point out that might apply to many of us here is with the ability to experiment with different channels to reach customers. We've talked about our websites, we've talked about live streaming commerce, we've talked about Facebook, TikTok, et cetera, et cetera. I just think you might give some thought to experimenting with one of those channels that may be different than what you're doing overall with your business. You may have some ideas, or someone may have come to you and said, hey, let's try this or that. And one way to do that with the online world is to experiment. And you can do it without not necessarily impacting your overall business. You can try things and see how it works. And so that's what I got out of this, the idea that you might be able to do something, in a small way, just to see how it works. It might be a kind of market you're thinking of. Maybe it relates to, some other channel of distribution that you always wondered about. But I do think what's clear is that lots of attempts and lots of tries does not mean you're a failure if it doesn't work. It just means you haven't found the right thing for you yet. And so that's really what I wanted to share about that. Any comments or reactions to Tom Kelly's brief little talk there? Okay.
Well, you also don't want to do too many experiments at once because you won't know what exactly works. So it's better to do like one at a time. And
yeah, I think the point is that may be true for most people. Maybe you have the ability to handle multiple inputs, but the point is try it. Whatever process you use, if it's a serial process or a parallel process or multiple process, whatever it is. I think the fact that in Edison's case, I thought it was really cool that they're still using his tattoo pen today. I didn't know that. That's pretty. That's probably as impactful as the light bulb, considering how many people get tattoos now, which I don't understand. But what do I know, right? But anyway, any other thoughts or comments before we move on to emotion?
I really agree, Dennis. That as far as I'm concerned, constant experimenting is really great for building your business. I mean, if you're just constantly searching for new innovative ideas, there's no better way to grow your business.
Yeah, and John, you're a real example of that. I think you've tried and show lots of different ideas, and I would consider you a pioneer in many respects for what you're doing. So you're a guy who walks the talk, or whatever they're supposed to say, walks the walk. So,
I also liked what he said about failing forward.
yeah.
Sometimes we do fail and fall.
Well, I hope so. I mean, it's like when I started playing basketball, and I think you all have similar stories, but the very first team I ever went out for, I was cut, and I was the tallest guy there. You want to talk about embarrassed? I was in 7th grade, and I got cut from that team, and I just really got after it. And the next year, I was the first person to ever make the junior varsity as an 8th grader. So, not that that was a hard thing to do at my school, but the point is, you try, it didn't work, and you try something else, and it does work. And I think with all these digital opportunities, digital channels that we're talking about, particularly this live streaming commerce, which doesn't require any expense up front, doesn't require a computer program or any of that kind of stuff. You could try different formats. You could try comedy. You could try a talk show format. You could try man in the street interviews. I mean, just anything you've ever seen on TV, you could try in that format, and it might work. Who knows? I don't know. But thank you, John, for those comments, and Doug. All right. So with that, I'm going to go to emotional intelligence. I want to tell you a quick story. So I was on the board at James Madison University for many years. And one of my really good friends that I actually went to JMU with way back, that we've stayed close over all these years, actually became one of the top experts on emotional intelligence in the world. That's what he did. And he had a company that he worked with Toyota, Amgen, Pfizer. He had just this massive company. And what he worked on was emotional intelligence, or some people call them soft skills. These are ways of doing things that show that you know what's going on, and you're able to communicate. And it's not like a military type of thing where you're ordering people to do stuff. In many cases, the people think it's their idea, which is the perfect example of emotional intelligence. So we actually started to implement this at the university level with, and it was not academic at all, so that was a problem. But the idea that, particularly in job interviews, that students, when they're in a job interview, could actually demonstrate emotional intelligence, which is really what a lot of job interviews are about. It's not necessarily a technical interview, although some positions require that, but many are just, hey, can this person fit into our culture? Can this person do the job? Will they grow? Are they going to be a plus for our team? And demonstrating emotional intelligence is really, that's what it's all about, is showing that ability. So with that, we're gonna look at a handful of videos from Techstars, and we can stop and talk at any time if anybody wants to.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Anna. I'm the managing director of Techstars LA, and I'm also an executive coach. And what we're talking about today is emotional intelligence, or EQ, and the role it plays in your success as a founder. EQ, which is sometimes referred to as emotional intelligence, emotional quotient, I'm going to use those two interchangeably, is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions, and recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of everyone around you. So research suggests that EQ may be twice or even 4 times as important as intelligence, or IQ, as hard skills in your success. In the startup community, and in particular in the tech world, we place like an inordinate value on hard skills and kind of what you know and where you went to school and what your role is. But the fact is that soft skills are probably harder to train and even more important in your overall success than the hard skills. But they're difficult to pin down and identify and find ways to develop. So that's what we're going to focus on today, is actually identifying what those soft skills are and then how you can build them. I actually do believe that emotional intelligence is something that you can practice. I also believe that we're never actually done practicing, so we're constantly, working on it. Let's look at some different tools. What we're going to cover in this is self-awareness, first of all, which is the cornerstone of everything. You can't work on it until you're aware of it. how to be present, how to use presence to pay attention to what's happening around you, how to recognize and manage fear, what flexible thinking is and how to use it as a tool to grow your company. Then we're going to take these skills and we're going to apply them where all the problems show up, which is other people. Because, we don't have problems. We only have problems in relation to other people. So we're going to look at feedback, how to get it, how to give it, and why this is important, and then spend a little time talking about coaching and how to coach yourself and how to coach your team around you to help them grow. I believe that personal growth drives company growth. So the more you can develop these skills and the more you can be a great coach for your team, the more effective and productive you're all going to be. So what exactly is EQ? The definition of EQ is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your emotions, and recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of others. In practical terms, this means being aware that emotions drive behavior and impact people both positively and negatively. And learning how to manage them, both ourselves and others, is key, especially when we're under pressure, as we often are. So we can look at EQ in 4 quadrants. And this was developed by Daniel Goleman and based on a lot of psychology research at the university level. So first we've got self-awareness, which is really where it all begins. This is the ability to understand your own strengths and weaknesses, to understand what your core values are. What do you care about? What really drives you? You'd be amazed how few people actually know what it is that motivates them. What's your why? And then what are the things that set you off? What are your triggers that get you into the emotional part of your brain so that you can't think as clearly? Being self-aware means understanding all of this. Then we move to self-management, which includes being able to stay calm and positive in a crisis and being able to recognize and detach from feelings rather than letting them drive your behavior. Good self-management allows us to focus under pressure and be adaptable, to be in a state of continuous improvement and to set high goals and reach for them. So now that we've got ourselves kind of all under control, we move to social awareness, which starts with empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of someone else. This applies both with your team, but also with your customers. The next level of social awareness is being able to read a room. So when you walk in, you can understand the dynamics and you can see how people are relating to each other, which is going to help you communicate better. It doesn't take a huge leap to understand how this is going to help you sell more and also help you raise money. Then in the last quadrant, we have the ninja level EQ skills, the social skills, which includes everything from being able to give and accept feedback well, to being able to build and inspire trust, to use your understanding of someone else's perspective to influence them, and then the ability to be an inspiring leader, which is something that we all want. Many investors, myself included, ask questions around EQ before making an investment. So the core thing I look at when I'm looking at a CEO, is this someone that I would work for? Is this someone that I believe that I could follow as a leader? And that really goes directly to EQ. What I'm saying is this a person with high EQ who I believe has the ability to be an inspirational leader? So that's pretty deep, because you may walk into a pitch meeting and think, wow, what they care about is how good is my idea and how good's my plan and how good my slides are, when the person sitting across the table from you is really looking at, is this someone I could follow? So making an investment in EQ and really thinking about it is going to just make you, such a more impactful leader and make those meetings go so much better. I think EQ is it's a little bit like good taste. Everyone thinks they have it. Everyone thinks they have good taste. Everyone thinks they have high EQ, but that can't really possibly be true, right? So in practical terms, the truth is, for good or bad, that all of this stuff is related. There is no such thing as a decision that is devoid of feeling. As a leader, you want to manage what you say and what you do. You've got to know what you're feeling, because your thoughts are driving your feelings and your actions. Your feelings are determining your thoughts and what you do. And believe it or not, your actions, what you do, actually influences your thoughts and your feelings. So the idea that you could kind of take emotion out of the equation, as some of us would like to do, and just be completely data-driven, it's just absolutely not realistic. Ignoring your feelings in all of this is just never going to work. So we have to understand how the 3 things work together. What we're really trying to do when we build EQ is get our 2 brains to work together. We have our feeling brain, which is wired unconsciously to keep us safe a lot of the actions we take are driven by impulses that are just really deep and that we may not even fully understand. So as a leader, you want to become fluent in EQ so you can use all these tools to build better teams, to build better companies, to have a greater impact on your customers and everyone around you. And there's like a huge additional bonus from understanding and investing in EQ, which is that your friends and family and probably even your dog are going to like you better. So let's dive right into self-awareness. How many people think that they have high self-awareness? I'm expecting everyone's hands to go on. Come on. Okay. According to Harvard Business Review, 95% of us report having high self-awareness, but actually only 10 to 15% do. So that means the majority of people don't know what their strengths and weaknesses are and don't know, how their words and their behavior affect other people. Like, wow, that feels like a really big problem to me. So if you're the majority of people who think you're self-aware but actually aren't, like that's a massive problem for not only you, but for your company, because especially at the beginning, you are your company. So let's look at, a really, really extreme example of someone who's not self-aware. And I just like to stop and note that, I think a lot of us have become aware that we're not self-aware recently because there's a lot of people that have taken these unconscious bias tests online. We all think, oh, I don't have unconscious bias. I'm completely not biased against anyone. And then we take the unconscious bias test and it shows that we are. So the fact is there's a lot happening in our brains that we don't know. But let's look at an extreme example here. So, someone who's not self-aware cannot accept feedback, don't know what they're good at, don't know what they're bad at, don't know what triggers them, so aren't able to identify when they get into an emotionally triggered state. They might actually have an inflated sense of their own performance, tend to take credit for, does anyone know anyone like this? Tend to take credit for other people's achievements and blame others when things don't work out. And finally, they may even hurt other people without realizing it. I'm sure we've all worked for someone who isn't self-aware. And it's an incredibly painful thing especially when you're in a reporting position with someone who lacks self-awareness. It's just almost unbearable. So now let's look at someone who has high self-awareness. Someone with high self-awareness understands what they're feeling and why. They know their own strengths and weaknesses. They know what drives them and what they care about and what their values are, which, by the way, also informs the company's values and helps them bring in people that share those values. Because they know who they are, they can present themselves with confidence, but also humility, and then make better decisions quickly and even in uncertain situations. So early on in life, this might not matter so much. We've all seen people who lack self-awareness who are high achievers in school. So when you're in school, the rules are clear, the guardrails are clear. You know what you need to do to get an A in this class or that class. The teachers aren't really looking for self-awareness. They're looking for, material that you've handed in on a test. It's very transactional. When you get out into the real world, right, and in particular when we're trying to build companies, and how you affect other people, your ability to inspire people to come follow you and work for you, your ability to convince people to buy your product, all of those skills that relate to EQ become so much more important. And that's when the difference between people that have high self-awareness and those that don't really, really starts to ramp up. So we're gonna go over a quick way to get started building your own self-awareness. So the first step is getting a baseline, what do you know about yourself? So this is a pretty easy exercise. You're going to write down four lists of 5 things each. When asked to describe ourselves, we normally focus on the external stuff, kind of back to the hard skills. So we talk, who are you as a person? You might think, oh, well, I went to this school and, this is my job title and this is where I grew up and these are the things I know about. We tend to talk about things that are external, but what I'm talking about is our inner self, not our external self, which is a lot harder sometimes for us to identify. So you're going to write down your strengths, improvement areas, your core values, and the things that trigger you. Once you've got your list, You don't want to like necessarily post it on your social media, but you might want to like share it with someone that knows you really well and get their reaction. Like, what is on your list that they didn't expect, and what is missing from your list that they think should be there? And that can be really informative. So I'd like to just spend a minute on personality assessments, because sometimes when people think self-awareness, they think, oh, I should go take the Myers-Briggs, or I should take the DISC, or the Enneagram, or the Strengths Finder. I've taken all of these, by the way. So I think they're really useful, but they're kind of just one piece. An assessment on its own doesn't create self-awareness. It's just a tool in kind of pointing out blind spots, things you don't know about yourself, or just giving you just kind of another perspective or a set of vocabulary to talk about, who you are. So to illustrate this, I will throw up some of my results and talk about how these sort of inform or relate to my own self-awareness and self-assessment. So think about these things as preferences or tendencies rather than fixed qualities. And that's really, really helpful, because then it sort of gets you out of this idea of this is how I am to this is what I prefer, right? This is what I prefer. And then I can kind of correct for that. So I prefer extroversion, right? Which means maybe sometimes I actually need to build my inner introvert up. I am very high level, strategic. That's what strategic, intuitive is, so I like to stay on the top and think in frameworks, right? So sometimes I can need to spend a little more time like working on the details and building up from the bottom. Judging, dominance, input, activator. I have a super strong preference for making decisions. I like to be in charge, right? That also means on the flip side, I have trouble with followership. In any event, these can be very useful. They are one piece of the puzzle, but they're kind of not the beginning and the end. So here's what it looked like when I did this full exercise on kind of strengths and growth and values and triggers. It's a little scary for me to put this up here, because I'm like, wow, I'm telling you an awful lot about myself. But, self-awareness and opening that door is a little scary. It's like, what if I discover I'm not perfect, right? So guess what? You're not. None of us are. But the more you get to know yourself, there's real power here. There's real learning and growth. And, the better you're going to be in every area of your life. So we can think about all this information about yourself in kind of 4 different boxes. So the first one is your open self, the things that are known to you that are known to others. And then you have the hidden self, which is, it about you, but maybe other people don't know, right? So with a hidden self, what you want to actually try to do is make that box as small as possible. The more you reveal and share about yourself, the better your communication and your relationships are going to be, and the more you can learn. So there's a lot, it's scary to divulge things that maybe feel private to you, just about how you are and what you care about. But the more you do that, the better your connections are going to get. Okay, so let's talk about the unknown for a minute. I don't really get this. I'm like, how can there be something about me that I don't know and no one else knows? It's kind of like if a tree falls in the forest, like, does it really, no one hears it, does it exist? I don't know. But the one to really focus on, though, is the blind spots. So the blind spots is stuff about you that's obvious to everyone else that you don't know, right? And this is the really scary one. So the more you can open the lid to that box and look in it and get the things that are over there into the open self and out into the open and expand that green box, the better everything is going to be for you. And the more you're going to be able to connect with people in an authentic way. So now we're going to talk about presence, which is really the cornerstone of self-management. So there's physically being in the room, like we're all here, but we have various degrees of sort of actual focus and mental presence that we're bringing. So mindful presence is being aware and attuned to where you are and what's happening with your feelings and the feelings of everyone around you. So when we think about mindfulness, everyone thinks meditation. So meditation is amazing. And I highly recommend that everyone do it. But the fact is, meditation is not the only tool that you have in your toolbox to get present. Let's just do a quick exercise. It's called feet on the floor. Just notice that both of your feet are fully connecting through your shoes to the floor. If you're sitting in a chair, feel where the chair is coming into contact with your body. Just close your eyes for a minute and listen to what you hear in the background. Imagine that there's a string that's pulling straight from the top of your head all the way through to the ceiling above you. And as you do that, you'll notice that you'll sit up a little bit straighter and that you'll open up your chest a little bit so you're able to breathe a little bit more. And then just open your eyes and really look at everything that's around you. What color are the walls? Who are you sitting next to? How are you feeling right now? What's going on? Take a deep breath, and then you're back in the room. So I don't know about you, but I just did that myself, and I feel different now, and I feel like now I'm gonna talk slower, and I'd be able to make more eye contact with you, and it took 30 seconds. So if you do that before you start a meeting, especially if it's a meeting that's kind of got a lot of tension and charge, like you're just gonna have a much better meeting. There's also a great way to do this with a group. It's called red, yellow, green. And it's a really great way to start a team meeting. You just go around the room and everyone checks in whether they're feeling red, yellow, or green. So green means I'm in the flow. I'm calm, I'm rested, there's nothing bothering me. I'm fully ready to be present and be creative. It's great if everyone's in green. It's usually not the case. Yellow means there might be some anxiety fluttering around the edges. Something's a little off, not quite right. Either I'm distracted about something that's happening at home or like I'm bothered by something at work. And so, I might not be 100% here, but I'm 75% here. And then there's red. So if someone checks in red, it means there is something that is really upsetting me and I am in a full emotional high alert state right now. Right? It might be a really big problem at home. It might be something at work. And by the way, you don't have to say, if you're in the red, you don't have to tell people why you're in the red. It might be something that you don't feel comfortable sharing, which is completely fine. But it is really important that your team knows that you're red. Because if you're red, you got to go deal with that. You can't do whatever this meeting is right now. It's just not going to go well. So if you do red, yellow, green, and one of your teammates checks in red, ask them what they need right now. Ask them if they need to leave, ask them if they need to have a conversation about it. So take care of your people first. If you have someone in red, or if you're the one in red, deal with that, and whatever it was that you were going to discuss in the meeting can wait. So there's a bunch of benefits you're going to get if you're fully present. The first one is really simple, just awareness. You're going to notice more of what's happening in the room, including people's body language, and you're going to be able to hear more of what's being said. So you're just going to pick up more of what's going on. That goes along with higher level listening. So you're going to be able to deeply listen and have empathy for the people around you if you're present, which you cannot do if you're distracted or you're checking your phone or you're kind of in and out of the room, right? And it means you're going to get the content. We have so much trouble with communication. It's amazing how often you'll leave a meeting and one person heard one thing and the other person heard something else. And if you're fully present, you reduce the chances of that happening. The third thing is your creative brain is going to be fired up. So you're going to be able to actually engage with whatever is the problem or the thing you're discussing. And by the way, if there's no problem or meaty topic of discussion, and it's just a meeting to report on stuff, you shouldn't be having the meeting. A good meeting is a meeting where there's some creative problem solving that needs to happen. Finally, you're going to have a positive impact on the people around you. Do you know those people that when you meet them and they shake your hand, they make eye contact, and they make you feel like you are the most important person in the world, and you have that jolt of energy that comes into you, those incredibly special people? If you practice presence, you will become one of those people, and you will have that impact on everyone around you, and there is just no greater gift than being that person for someone else. One of the biggest mistakes we make in life is living in the future, so worrying about things that haven't happened yet. So in the startup world, we worry about whether customers are going to like our product, or if we're going to run out of money in 6 months, or what if our competitor gets there first, or some other thing that we have no control of and isn't actually on the table today. The other thing we like to do is live in the past. So, having regret that we didn't make a different move yesterday, or resentment against someone else who didn't do something that they were supposed to do for us that has now created a problem, none of which is on the table today. So the team you have in the room with you today, the product you have today, the angel investor who just committed to being the first person to write you a check to get your product out the door, those are the things that are on the table today. And being present will help you engage with today's problems using the best faculties you have today. Being present so you can bring your whole self into the room to lead is just going to be key to handling whatever comes your way.
And we're back. I think that this is a subject that's going to take some time to make sense for everybody. There are worksheets in the member resources under Techstars, under Entrepreneurs Toolkit, and we're going to do the other half of the class tomorrow. But I thought this was a pretty good place to stop. I think that there's a lot to think about here, a lot to chew on, if you will, and not only as it relates to your employees or your team, but I think more importantly to your why. She starts off the thing by saying, know your why, which we talk about all the time, right? Simon Sinek, on our very first class, we talked about knowing your why, and we keep hearing that over and over from all these different people. And once you know your why you're doing this, then some of these things that we're going over will help you, and it'll have more impact as you grow emotionally and in your business acumen, your ability to reach your objective. The reason why you're doing it. So hopefully this is helpful to everybody, and it's my favorite subject in entrepreneurship is this emotional intelligence, because I have known some people that had this, and it's really remarkable to be around them. I don't know if you've had that opportunity, but people who really have a highly developed sense of why they're doing what they're doing, and also have the ability to inspire and to get those around them to really operate at a higher level than they might have otherwise. So I hope some of you have had that experience, or in fact are enabling others in your organization to have that experience because of you. So with that, I'll ask if there's any questions or thoughts at this point.
Dennis, I will say that I did like the part when she said that people that you're talking to or pitching to want to know if they would like to work for you. And so, for example, I have a pitch tomorrow to corporations, about 50 to 70 of them tomorrow. So that's something I'm gonna keep in mind. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'd work for you. So I think that you can go ahead and watch all the videos before your thing if you want before you go. But hopefully this will help you particularly as you focus on the now, right? Even though you're pitching people on, I assume, what could happen tomorrow based on their support of you, I think at the same time they have to understand what's going on right now. So good luck tomorrow, and let us know how you do.
Thank you.
Doug, did you have something? Okay. I don't think Doug's sound is working. Okay. Anyone else want to chime in on this topic? Okay. Well, thank you all for coming, and I apologize for Thursday. The TikTok video was really terrific. I'm trying to get a full copy of it. I got some of it, and I posted it on our Facebook page, but it's really, really good. And there's some stories there of North Carolina small businesses and how they've used TikTok. It's unreal. Some of the stories are just crazy. So I do encourage you to take a look at that. I really wish we could have figured that out. Just to kind of explain, we operate on a Zoom account, and when we participate in another event, if they happen to be using Zoom, even if it's a different account, it will not allow me to record the sound, and I have not been able to figure out a way around that. So my attempt a while ago with Tom Kelly, that's exactly what happened. And I thought I had figured it out by using a different Zoom account, but it doesn't. It's just some kind of setting in Zoom that I guess they don't want people, throw it out there. And yes, Ruth, the special for the North Carolina small businesses, the one I was trying to broadcast to the class. I do have the recording, at least a good chunk of it on our Facebook page. And I'm attempting to get the full video from one of the sponsors if I can figure it out. Although a lot of it, some of it you don't really need, I don't think. It's not that critical. But the part that I did capture was some experiences by North Carolina small businesses, how they use TikTok and how it's benefited them. So yeah, so it is that event that TikTok for Small Business North Carolina that I was trying to get everybody into. Okay, Elena, did you have something? Okay. Well, I guess with that, I'm gonna wish everybody a good rest of the day, and look forward to catching up with everybody tomorrow. Thank you very much.